Welcome to the JTV Caribbean News. I am Sean Rose. Over 300 people took to the streets in Haiti to protest against alleged reports of fraud in the recent presidential election. Some protesters resorted to violence, forcing police to break up the demonstration with tear gas. According to the Antigua Observer, the results released last Thursday showed government-backed candidate Jovenel Moïse and the former state construction chief Judge Celestine heading for a runoff vote on December 27. The election, which included balloting for parliament and mayors, attracted 54 presidential candidates. Of the 5.8 million registered voters, over 1.5 million votes were cast in the election. Of those, 120,066 were invalidated for fraud and other irregularities. Some have announced plans to push for the removal of Moïse, who has reportedly been chosen by President Michel Martelly. The Prime Minister of Curaçao, Dr. Ben Whiteman, has tendered his resignation to the governor in Willemstad. On Friday, his four-party coalition lost its majority in Parliament. Whiteman has been Prime Minister for just 1 month. Whiteman's coalition was supported by 11 of the 21 seats. On Friday, the coalition lost the support of an MP for the moderate PAIS party. Curaçao may be preparing for early elections in February or March 2016, some 6 months earlier than planned. And it is the first time that the population of the country can talk about a new political composition of the parliament after the assassination of former political leader Helmin Wells in 2013. Wells had won the elections in October 2012. 3 men have been found responsible for causing the death of 7 students from the community of Fancy in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in a tragic accident earlier this year. The men, Ehud Myers, a 67-year-old pastor, Colbert Bowens, a 51-year-old principal, and Davenan Nanton, a 36-year-old chauffeur, who appeared in court on Wednesday, were found to be responsible with manslaughter by gross negligence in the deaths of the 7 students on January 12. The students died when a minibus plunged down a steep incline and into the raging sea at Rock Gutter, an uninhabited area between Owia and Fancy on St. Vincent's east coast. The men received bail in the sum of 20,000 EC dollars with one surety, following the conclusion of the recent coroner's inquest into the deaths. The bail conditions will continue. The men are scheduled to return to court on January 21 for their next court hearing. The Caribbean Agribusiness Association, the African, Caribbean, Pacific, and European Union Technical Center for Agricultural and Rural Cooperation, and the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, AICA, convened in Barbados for the Caribbean Agribusiness Forum. Eastern Caribbean States Ambassador to the European Union, Dr. Len Ishmael, spoke about efforts for a bi-regional approach to slash the food import bill for the region.
And when I said the lack of will, I was really expressing a certain degree of frustration. Our islands are tiny, our economy is particularly undiversified. Agriculture certainly has a role to play in our economic futures.
The link between agriculture and tourism has been a regional talking point for many years. Eastern Caribbean States Ambassador to the European Union, Dr. Len Ishmael, says after 3 decades of dialogue, technical studies, and assessments, the movement on the ground to translate that talk into action remains elusive. Dr. Ishmael says the Caribbean Pacific Agri-Food Forum creates an ideal opportunity for serious stock-taking and for the type of collective action that is needed to address the challenges facing agribusiness in the Caribbean.
I think that there are some solutions that have to be handled at the national level. But when we're dealing with transportation, for example, in our region, there is a regional dimension and regional challenge that we have to face. You know, if it's too costly by air, then why are we not developing the sort of ferry systems that are required? You know, we have ferry systems. St. Vincent and the Grenadines has its own ferry system and its own system of small planes. You go to the BVI, there's almost seamless movement between the British Virgin Islands and the US Virgin Islands. And the BVI has many, many islands, you know, but they're all linked by regular ferry and fast ferry service. Trinidad and Tobago are linked by very sophisticated ferry service as well. There's something that we are not yet doing in terms of connecting the dots so that we can be connected with each other in terms of a ferry service that allows us to be able to bring produce up north and bring other things back down south.
Dr. Ishmael says while there are many constraints facing the business of agriculture in the region, those within the sector continue to ignore the many initiatives that can help boost agriculture.
We have all these hotels. Why are we not supplying them with tomatoes regularly at a quality that we can vouch for on a regular basis? Why are we not producing the cucumbers, the lettuce in supply, you know, in the quantity and the quality that's required to supply the hotels? Why are we importing so much food? Why are we importing food that our kids eat? Why? And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be importing food. I'm just saying, you know, the food import bill at a time when we are challenged to find the foreign exchange to pay for those bills because very little is coming in by way of foreign exchange right now. Our food import bill only goes in one direction, and that's up every year.
The problems facing regional agriculture have been well documented. They include access to finance, building resilience, educating farmers, transportation, and a broken chain between the sector and tourism. Solutions have been identified. Dr. Ishmael says the key word now is action. Alison Kentish, HTS News Force.
And finally, in this week's Caribbean News segment, the Guyana government is moving to set up a witness protection program that will include safe houses and new identities for people who give testimony in court in sensitive cases. Minister of Governance Raphael Trotman said a Witness Protection Bill 2015, under which that would be made possible, will be tabled before the National Assembly soon. The legislation will ensure protection of witnesses and their families against intimidation and/or physical harm during and after their involvement in court proceedings. The bill would address issues such as the establishment of safe houses and providing new identities where necessary. Trotman said it is more of a CARICOM crime and security initiative. Trinidad, Jamaica, and Barbados have already started working with each other where they move witnesses before, during, and after trials within each other's countries. Trotman added that Guyana also has support from the international community in this effort. And that's it for this week's Caribbean News segment. I am Sean Rose.
And coming up next on JTV News. Media outreach campaign highlights the positive developments taking place at Brigada Flax Educational Center. And our Hot Trends team begins to look for Christmas shopping deals starting at Comar Trading.